What is it about certain periods of history is that people are prone to mob behavior and hysterias and delusions? There are books about it. There's controversies around it, but there clearly are trends in history where it's funny. I was reading a book about 1935 Germany, and the Germans were talking about the hysteria that had captured Germany. I thought, oh, even that was a hysteria.
Yeah.
And what is it about our personality construct, our family experiences, our childhood experiences that sets that up? And humbly, I believe it is narcissism. When there is a huge narcissistic trend, there's a tendency towards envy. There's a tendency towards scapegoating. There's a tendency to mob together and then collectively act out your aggression on somebody, one. And it's a way of managing their own internal rage and aggression. And it's highly dysfunctional. It needs to be addressed for what it is. I'm a time traveler, Tim. I watched the diagnostic codes change on the admitting sheets at the psychiatric hospital across 30 years. And when I first got there in the 80s, it was all different kinds of personality spectrum. Towards the end of the 80s, borderline took over. And then by the 90s, it was only cluster B, which is the narcissistic disorder. And the borderlines, when they came in, all had at least 5 lawsuits under their belt, at least. The legal system caught on to the fact that they were using the courts to act out. Then these same patients became lawyers and then judges and politicians.
Wow.
And so that's what we're dealing with now. And parents also. And so more narcissism. And we have to contain it. There's no other way of doing it other than containment. And then helping people lean into their phobias or whatever else going on.
I think the people in this country that don't suffer from this are too afraid to be called fascists.
That's right.
So they just say, well, we're going to let you do whatever you want.
Well, look at what happens when you speak up. I'm a young woman saying, hey, I don't want to be sexually harassed. And there is a pervasive anti-white, anti-male bias in our institutions. And I was fired for it.
Well, it's like the emperor has no clothes, you know? So Tim, like you were talking about different types of delusions, and I mean, we can look at the Nazi regime, right, as like a mass formation psychosis and it's what I fear is happening now, actually.
It happens in history periodically, and I thought we were done with it. I was so wrong.
No, I think it's
read Le Bon. Read about it. Really, the Jacobins had it, the first real big version of it. It did not end well for them or anybody else. It doesn't go well.
Which is why it is so important for people to speak up. I mean, I'll just share as well. Like it was hard for me. I was telling, these two at breakfast, like the reason I wrote my book about the mental health benefits of free speech is because I used to just try to really toe the line in the media, not say anything that would, get me blacklisted from media and journalists. And then when it came to COVID and it came to masking kids, I couldn't keep it in. And so I wrote this blog about the harms of masking kids. And I shared it with a couple colleagues to just say, like, am I missing something here? Like, what's going on? And they wrote back and they were like, no, everything you're saying is correct, but you should not share the blog because it could keep people from masking their kids. And I was like, okay, this is nuts.
That is.
I know.
I think we're cooked.
So I shared the blog, and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya picked it up, all these people, and then I felt this weight lifted off of me. I was having deeper conversations. My own thought process was deepening. That's what led me to be interested in the mental health benefits of free speech. So I just really encourage people to say it. Whatever it is, say it, because repression, suppression, denial, for whatever reason, psychologists are not talking about the harms of those things. They're talking about the harms of hate speech and bullying. And anything you say that they disagree with, of course, is labeled as hate speech and bullying. So, I mean, I'm not in favor of hate speech and bullying, but I just think we have to be bold and just whatever it is,
anti-science,
say it.
too. It's anti-science not to have discourse, not to have debate.
Well, the thing is, I think most people actually agree because you see the few people who speak out who break from the tribe and they get punished, but I was punished to warn other people not to speak out. That was what happened. I mean, so I went to this struggle session right before I got fired, and after the meeting, the director was like, I'm not going to fire you. You did a great job. You balanced your personal experiences with your philosophical concerns, all good. He calls me 2 hours later and says, it's not tenable for you to work at the organization because of the intolerance of my staff.
Wow.
And he was given a warning from the staff, you better fire her or else. And everybody else in that meeting, I was made an example of.
You gotta, I wish I was in that position as your boss, because the moment someone came to me and said, if you fire her, or if you don't fire her, I quit, I'll be like, there's the door.
I think they would.
I'd actually be like, you're fired, out.
I think the staff would be cut in half. I really do.
Good. Bye.
Yeah.
Go on welfare, I guess.
That's the
Yeah.
containment. That's what needs to happen. And, Mark Chankisi is a cognitive psychologist, and he keeps wanting to emphasize that a lot of this stuff is not just top down. It's also bottom up. It's people during COVID reporting their neighbors for having barbecues, for not masking their kids, for being a prison guard and reporting when somebody's hiding somebody in the attic. You're the people that would be the prison guard. You who did that. If you yelled at somebody, what was this? Somebody was sharing with me before I came in here. A woman was committed for having shot somebody for not wearing his mask.
Whoa,
Security.
what?
You hear about this? Maybe
The New York
Sean
Post.
can bring it as in the
Yeah,
Post,
the
or you got to
Post
look it
just
up.
published it.
But the point is
Whoa,
that
really?
you would be the prison guards. You think you'd fight the Nazis? No, you would be the prison
Yes.
guards. You have to understand that about yourselves. And if, by the way, in the position of your boss, say, was listening to the bottom-up hysteria, if you didn't stand up to that, you would be a Nazi sympathizer. You would be in the
We
system.
can all fall prey to it. So one of the things I also researched a little bit is groupthink, right? So we all, I think, know what groupthink is. And I looked at there's 7 main factors that contribute to groupthink. One of them is actually self-censorship. And then another one is called the illusion of unanimity. So Naomi, at your job, for example, I guarantee you there were a few other people, as you said, maybe even half, that would have taken your side. But if they stay silent, then it just seems as if, everybody feels this
What is it? The
way.
Asher Conformity Experiment?
Oh, that's in my book too.
Where they convince they have one subject and a bunch of Confederates. So the subject comes into a room like this, and the teacher goes, "All right, which line is longer?" And he has a very short line and 3 longer ones, and the whole room says the short line is longer. They
conform.
conform. Yeah.
There's a really fun video you guys probably have seen before where there's a person sitting in a chair, and I forget how they frame it, but the subject is a single person who walks into the room. It's a doctor's waiting room, and there's one person sitting in a chair, and they sit down. After a few minutes, there's a loud beep on the PA, and the person sitting down stands up for about 5 seconds and then sits down.
Oh yeah.
The subject looks and is just seemingly confused.
Everybody starts.
Another person comes in and sits down.
Yeah.
After a little bit, there's a beep. Both people stand up. The subject looks around confused. After like 5 or 6 more people start doing it, the subject begins just repeating the behavior, not knowing why. Now, the sad thing is, there's a good reason, and you guys are the experts, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a good reason humans do this. If you are standing in the middle of the woods and a person is screaming and running in a direction, you're going to go, okay, and run with them because turns out there's a boulder rolling down the hill or something. But and then it turns into this mass formation psychosis where my buddy Luke was in Germany, in Hamburg, during the G20 protests. And he's a journalist. His politics is libertarian. He was walking down the street with another German journalist, this guy named Max, and a random person pointed and yelled, "Nazi Schweinhund."
Oh, wow.
And random people ran up and started punching and beating the crap out of him for no reason. That's it. And then the guy's knees got busted up. He had to get, I guess, surgery later on. Luke was fortunately roughed up, but okay.
Moral superiority is one of the other factors in groupthink. So social justice warriors is kind of when you have that sense that, you are morally superior, then that it speeds up the groupthink process.
So I think the internet is largely driving the psychosis and the mass formation psychosis.
Really helping.
Yeah.
But before you say that, I want to say, though, that the other thing about that experiment you talked about with the people standing and sitting, it's hypnotists use it as a way of determining who's the easiest to hypnotize.
Yeah.
Right.
And somebody who starts
Suggestibility.
standing up quickly, that's somebody who's going to be easily hypnotized.
So one thing I've been talking about quite a bit since the 4th of July is that I went back to Chicago, landed at Midway, which I'd never done before, but I grew up 2 blocks away. So when we were leaving, we were like, we'll just drive through the neighborhood because it is, to go through the neighborhood is on the way to get to the highway. And we drove past the old park a couple blocks from my house and Jimmy Dore's house, by the way. Jimmy Dore and I live next to each other. It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Like 2 or 3 blocks away. He's older than me, so I was a small child when he left, but it's kind of crazy. The baseball fields are overgrown. and nobody was outside. As an aside, I mentioned there were soccer nets there now, like the culture has changed. But the important thing I'm bringing up to now is that there was nobody there. And I was shocked because when I was a kid, on the 4th of July, when you walked outside, there were coolers everywhere. There were folding chairs. Baseball games were happening. Everyone was outside. Now nobody's outside. And I asked my friends, I was like, dude, what's going on? Where is everybody? And they all just said, inside on the internet, I guess. Yeah. That's all anyone does. So what I see is happening with mass formation psychosis is communities used to be localized around the regional work, the resources the region had, and their interests were based on where they were. So the Rust Belt, they were very concerned about auto manufacturing and the election, and that's what they wanted to hear about. But the farms in Nebraska were like, well, we have no idea what that is. Now, I think there's a better way to describe this as a meme on 4chan, where it said, 1994, some kid says, I'm sexually attracted to toasters, and then his dad smacks him up the side of the head and says, stop being weird, and he stops. 2024, he says he's attracted to toasters, goes on the internet and finds a toaster fetish community, and now he's going to toaster conventions to bang toasters.
Collective rationalization is another one of those main ingredients of groupthink, and you're totally right that the internet makes it a lot easier to like find your tribe with that. And Drew, like you were saying too about with the Ash Line experiment.
Yeah.
I talk about that in the book too. To me, it's super interesting where we go from consciously accommodating the group, because in that experiment, most of the people afterwards said, yeah, I knew which line was longer, but I just didn't want to stand out. And then you progress to where it's unconscious. And there's some other experiments that I describe where the more often you do it, the more you start to stand up and sit down and raise your hand, the more you start, because of something called cognitive dissonance, start adapting your thoughts to accommodate your repetitive behaviors.
And your community, and the community you're now part of.
You know what I actually think, to get a little political? I think many Democrats recognize this. They are very lucid. And they think to themselves, if this is how people are going to behave, why not just control it and have these people serve me?
That's exactly what they're doing. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I think it's very clear, and that's why they want to shut down free speech.
They want to keep people in the psychosis so that they can control the narrative of the psychosis and then have good little worker bees facilitate their systems.
And the left is, and I mean, this is just a fact, and it has strengths and weaknesses, but the left is a more collectivist mindset, and the right is a more individualist mindset. So the left is just naturally set up for exactly what you're describing.
And it seems like now the psychological professions they're being mobilized to encourage it, because the people at the very, very top encourage the groupthink by definition. And so they are being ushered to positions of power. And now these people who want to shut down free speech, who live in their collectivist mindsets, they're going to be in control of our psyches. They want to be.
Study your history, everybody.
In the midst of a mental health crisis.
It always works like that. They bring them in. Again, Mao, that's what he did.
And go to freespeechtoday.com, because that's where I wrote my book, as well as free articles and stuff on the topic for people that want to learn more about it. I talk about free speech, obviously saying what you want, but the other side is important too. It's called listening resiliently. So we have to also be able to hear people say things. Like we had some disagreements this morning, right? I mean, Tim, people have disagreements on your show all the time, and it's what makes it interesting.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.